Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian M. Hauser. I'm coming to you live from the Virginia Mason Athletics Center as the Seahawks are about to begin another padded practice. Interestingly, after doing their scrimmage on Saturday, getting a day off yesterday, starting their first official game week of the 2025 season, at least for the preseason. They're back in pads on this Monday, and I'm watching them go through their warm-ups. What I wanted to try to get done here as I watch and talk you through it is my updated 53-man roster. I kind of wanted to go through and see where things had changed since the last time I did this, which was before training camp began. So I will walk you through all of those changes, and I'm going to go pretty quickly. So try and keep up, and then I'm going to hang up from this. You don't really hang up from a live stream, but I will end the stream, go watch practice, take notes. And after that, this afternoon, right around noon, I will have Mike Jarrell on for an interview. Looking forward to talking to Mike Jarrell. And then we got some press conferences and all sorts of good post-practice report stuff. So a lot of good stuff coming your way on this fine Monday, although it is a little breezy, a little cloudy, a little cool. So hopefully, I've got a hoodie on today. It's definitely, it's not short sleeve weather, but I'm still rocking the shorts. So, all right, let's get into it. I am going to share with you my updated roster. I'm going to walk through a few things, and hopefully, if you have questions, put them in chat. I will do my best to see those questions, but it's going to be a little hard because I'm going to be on one screen, so I won't be able to see your notes as I am going through mine. So let's get started here. From a quarterback position situation, I'm not sure that much has changed from my perspective to start with. Sam Darnold, a lock to make the team, a lock to be the starter. Jalen Milroe, for me, I had him before training camp above Drew Lock. I still do. He's done nothing to change that. I think he's a part of the long-term future of this team. And I still have Drew Lock as a high-confidence player to make the roster. And if you haven't seen my color coding before or are not watching, or sorry, you're not watching, you're listening, the color codes are green means that I think they're a lock to make the 53. Blue means I have high confidence that they will make the 53. And yellow means I think they're on the bubble and in the conversation to make the 53. If they do not have a color associated with them, it means I do not think they are going to be in the mix to make the 53-man roster. So I have them keeping three quarterbacks, and you've got this. I'm going to have to try to zoom out a little bit so you guys can see the whole bit here. Let me make sure you can see the whole thing in view. So I've got at the bottom, I've got how many I project them to keep at each position, as well as any IR or PUP players. So that's the quarterback situation. Let me try to make this even bigger. Hopefully that still is in good view for you guys. So getting to running backs. There has been change. Kenny McIntosh to IR, and yeah, sorry, I'm trying to find the best view for this. That's not the best view. Let's try this. Hopefully you guys can still see that well enough. So Kenny McIntosh to IR. He was a guy that I had as the third most likely player or fourth most likely player in my April projection, or sorry, my July projection. And with him on IR, Damian Martinez is a guy I've moved up to a high confidence player to make this team. Robbie Oots is a guy I've also got as high confidence to make this team. I've moved Brady Russell from the running back column to the tight end column because that is where he's practicing. That is the room he is in. Those are the drills he is doing, even though I believe he will also be a fullback and an H-back. I'm counting him the way the team is essentially counting him for now. So after Robbie Oots and Damian Martinez, I have George Halani and Jacardia Wright. I will say Jacardia Wright has played well and I think is affording himself well. There's another running back I do not have listed that they recently signed. I don't think he's going to make the roster, so no offense, but I didn't add him in here. I have them keeping 4 running backs, and that includes a fullback. So Robbie Oots is the fullback. And then that has 3 running backs, Ken Walker, Zach Charbonnet, and Damian Martinez. I think that's a pretty good crew. And could they go to 5? Sure. Will they? I don't know. I mean, maybe depends on what they do at kick returner. But for now, Kenny McIntosh was doing some kick returning stuff. So it's possible George Halani gets a nod now that Kenny McIntosh is out. But we will just have to see how that shakes out. So that's what I currently have. Going to wide receiver. I have got Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp still as locks, and no surprise there. I have moved Torrey Horton up to the 3rd highest. And if you're just reading this or if you're watching this and you can see my screen, I list from top to bottom kind of in stack rank order, my most likely to stay versus least likely. And so Torrey Horton is climbed to the 3rd. He is above Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I had Marquez Valdez-Scantling as a high confidence player to make this team, and as the 3rd wide receiver, I've moved Torrey Horton above him, even though he was a 5th round pick. I think he has shown enough already that it would be very surprising if he does not make the roster. He's also doing some kick returning duties and other things. So I think Torrey Horton makes this team. I could almost put him as a lock. I haven't, just because, there's still some preseason to play and some other things that could happen, but he's pretty close to a lock. If I go to Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he's an interesting one. Now, I have him as on the bubble now. Realistically, this is a guy that has a $3.5 million, I think, guaranteed deal. So the likelihood that the team's just going to cut him seems pretty low. Maybe there's a trade that they make, but for the most part, I would bet that he is part of this team. He's made very, very few plays so far this practice season, this training camp season. So, who knows? Maybe it'll show up more in games, but so far it has been pretty disappointing, I would say, his performance so far in training camp. I do still have him as the 4th most likely, partially because of that guaranteed contract, partially because his skill set is still something that just is not replicated elsewhere on the wide receiver crew. So that's where I've got that. And then Jake Bobo. Right now I have Jake Bobo as the 5th receiver. This is a really, really tight race. It was a tight race going into training camp. It remains a tight race. You've got Jake Bobo, who is a great blocker, great special teams player, beloved by players and coaches. I just think that he's got the leg up to make the roster. Even though he has not been making necessarily a huge impact, I think he still is a guy that they would probably want on this team. I think he really fits the identity of what Mike McDonald's trying to build here. I think he also fits really well with what Clint Kubiak's trying to do. And then the people battling for that 5th receiver spot, Steven Sims is still a guy they signed to do returning duties. And they, depending on how things shake out, that he might make the roster just to be a punt and kick returner. And we'll just have to see how the team feels about Torrey Horton and some of the other guys doing those return duties. If they're comfortable, then I think Steven Sims' chances of making the roster drop quite a bit. Derek Young, I could have above Steven Sims because I think he's had a better camp. And he's a very good special teams player. He's made some good plays. I think the coaching staff really respects him. I'm not sure he has enough of what they want that is different than, let's say, Jake Bobo, that they keep Bobo and Derek Young. And I don't think he's above Jake Bobo. So I think they're very similar in their skill sets. And I think Bobo is a better overall player. So that's why I've got Bobo a couple spots ahead. Cody White, who I thought had a really big opportunity coming into camp, I don't think that has really been grabbed, seized so far. He was having a good OTA minicamp. I don't think he has had the greatest training camp so far, and so he's got some ground to make up, but he's still on the bubble. Tyrone Broden's a guy that I had as no chance to make the roster coming into training camp. He has had a really nice camp, I think. And as I've said a bunch of times, the knock on him coming out of school, he's 6'5", runs like a 4.3 40. He's got a lot of skills, but he dropped the ball all the time in college. He has not dropped a ball that I've seen during camp. So I think he's a guy that at the very least has really increased his odds of making the practice squad. So really nice camp so far for him. Ricky White has been out injured for a while. He was having a decent camp, but I've got him pretty low based on him being a 7th round pick, based on him being pretty low, I think, in the depth chart, and a guy that I think is very easy for them to stash on the practice squad. And if they want him later to come up as a special teams player or something else, they can elevate him. So I think he's a pretty easy practice squad stash. John Rice Plumlee, similarly, I think he's had a nice camp. I think they really respect and like him. I think that he's also a guy that you could easily put on practice squad if they think highly enough of him and want to keep him around. And then Montori Foster, I don't have even on the bubble. I think Montori Foster's been good, but I just don't see what he's going to do that's really going to, move the needle, so to speak. So that's where I've got. And I've only got them keeping 5 receivers still. So that is Jackson Smith and Jigba Cooper Kupp, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Jake Bobo. Those are the 5. That would mean Derek Young doesn't make it. That means Cody White doesn't make it. That means Steven Sims doesn't make it. Tyrone Broden doesn't make it. And this is, by the way, still with me having them keep 26 offensive players, which is, the most that I think they could possibly keep. Moving on to tight end. On the tight end side, I have A.J. Barner at the top of the list. I still have him there. I have him as a lock. Elijah Arroyo, second on the list, lock. No questions there. Eric Saubert, I have him as 3rd, and I have him as a high confidence guy. He's pretty close to a lock. I thought the guy that could maybe give him a run for his money would be Nick Callerup, the tight end, undrafted free agent from Minnesota. I think he's done all right as a blocker. I'm not sure he's done enough to really push the veteran in Saubert. I think they're going to keep a guy that they feel really good about. There's been nice things said by Clint Kubiak and others about Saubert, and I think they pretty much count on him being here. Brady Russell, I have as the 4th tight end. I also have him as a high confidence player, and I have them keeping 4 tight ends. Callerup is the only guy I've got on the bubble. There's maybe some chance that something changes between now and the end of camp, but this is pretty close to a clear four-person group. Now that Noah Fant has been traded, that was different than my first projection where he wasn't available. So I've got A.J. Barner, Elijah Arroyo, Eric Saubert, and Brady Russell. And then moving on, we go to the offensive line. And on the offensive line, I have some interesting stuff going on there. So Charles Cross, top still. Abe Lucas, second still. Gray Zabel, third still. I have Oluwatimi jumping. I had Christian Haynes as the 4th most likely player to make the roster on the offensive line. He has dropped quite a bit. I will tell you how far in a second. But I've got Oluwatimi as 4th. I could have put Anthony Bradford at 4th. I think he and Olu are pretty much neck and neck. And then Jalen Sundell. And so those are 6 guys on the offensive line I have as locks to make the roster. Charles Cross, Abe Lucas, Gray Zabel, Oluwatimi, Anthony Bradford, and Jalen Sundell. So those guys are all locks. From there, I got Josh Jones as a high confidence player. He's their swing tackle. I've got Christian Haynes now as a high confidence player, not a lock. That might sound wild, and I think I said high confidence, so I do think he's going to make the roster, but I don't think he's a lock anymore. And that says a lot. So I'll leave it there. After Christian Haynes, I've got Mike Jarrell, who will be on the show with me later today, so keep an eye out for that, as the other backup tackle. And then interesting here, I've got Satawa Lamea sneaking onto the roster. I had Bryce Cabledew making it before. I don't think he's had a great camp. Unfortunately, I'm bummed out about that. I've got Bryce Cabledew actually dropped off the 53-man roster and actually below 7th-round pick Mason Richmond. I think Mason Richmond has had a bit of a better camp than Bryce Cabledew. Played some different positions. I think he's showing more promise. So I have him a little bit ahead. And then Federico Merenges, I have him in a different color because he's an international prospect. I think he gets a exemption to be on the roster, but I don't think he's making it based off of being better than some of the other guys on this list. Luke Felix Fualalo and Amari Kite, I do not have making the roster. They could potentially be practice squad guys, but not for the 53. I have the team keeping 10. So that would mean Charles Cross, Abe Lucas, Gray Zabel, Olu Olutimi, Anthony Bradford, which, by the way, is who I think are your starters across the line. And then Jalen Sundell, who also may end up being a starter. And then Josh Jones, Christian Haynes, Mike Jarrell, and Satawa Lamea. So that would give you 2 backup tackles and 3 backup guards, depending on how you see Jalen Sundell, who also could be a backup center. That would be your 10. I think it's a pretty good balance and a pretty good group. As far as, so that's the offense. And as I said, that is 26 offensive players that would make it. All right. Moving on to defense. I have got some changes here. I've got Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, and Jaron Reed as your locks to make the roster. I don't think that hasn't changed. They're your top 3. I have Mike Morris jumped up to 4th. I had Jonathan Hankins there before. Jonathan Hankins is still on the NFI list, so I have him down on IR or other. Wouldn't surprise me if they stash him on some list and don't start the season with him, but we'll kind of see how the team decides to play out. I think Mike Morris has had a decent camp. And then Quinton Bohanna is the 5th guy I've got, and I've got him ahead of Brandon Peely and ahead of Bubba Thomas. I think Quinton Bohanna has had a nice camp. I think they feel good about what he provides. And I've got them. I went from 6 interior defensive linemen to 5. So I cut one, I cut one on my list of what I had previously. And what this would do is it would give them, Byron Murphy, Jaron Reed, Quinton Bohanna can all play nose tackle. I would think Quinton Bohanna would be their kind of base down guy. And then you've got Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, Jaron Reed, and Mike Morris, who all can play end, as well as, Byron Murphy can play 3 tech as well. So I think you've got some good variety. I don't think Brandon Peely has had a good enough camp to earn a roster spot. That's where I'm at right now. That might change, but that's where I currently am at with that. It's possible that they could keep both him and Quinton Bohanna. They've certainly been playing them a fair amount together. Bubba Thomas has had a decent camp. I don't think enough to make a roster. I think it's still possible that they add from the outside to this group before camp ends. And you have to keep in mind, Riley Mills at some point during the season will likely be available. Maybe it will be during middle of the year. Who knows? But something to keep an eye on as the season continues. Moving on, inside linebacker. So Ernest Jones, Tyrese Knight are the locks. Then I've got a little bit of a scrum at the back end, the backups, Drake Thomas, Josh Ross, and Patty O'Connell. I've got the 3 of those guys kind of neck and neck. I think Josh Ross is the best special teams player. I think Patty O'Connell is a good, really mix of all skills. Drake Thomas, I think, has maybe the highest upside of some of those guys. And right now, one of the things, when I took a player away from the interior defensive line, I added it to inside linebacker. I have them keeping 5 inside linebackers instead of 4, which is what I previously had. The reason being, all of those guys are special teams contributors. And so I think that they give them depth at inside linebacker. They also give them special teams guys that they're going to want to have on the roster. So that's why I went to 5 there. I do have Jamie Sheriff still as a bubble guy. I don't think he makes the 53, but I think he's on that. He's done well enough that he should be in consideration. Derek Jackson's a guy I just don't see making this team. He could be a practice squad option for them. All right, moving on to outside linebacker edge. Derek Hall and DeMarcus Lawrence I have as the top 2 there. Boye Mafe is next. Jared Ivey is 4th. And I've got Jared Ivey as a lock. And the interesting thing there is it really, I could just put they're going to trade for somebody. They're going to add someone else to that position, but that's kind of a cop-out. I mean, I think that's probably what's going to happen. But based on the guys that are already here, I think Jared Ivey is very clearly the fourth most valuable edge player on their roster. He can play. Part of the reason I also go to 5 interior defensive linemen is Jared Ivey and DeMarcus Lawrence are big ends. They can actually be in there as a down lineman, especially Jared Ivey, who's like 270, 275. So I think Ivey gives them the right kind of versatility. I think he's played well enough. I think he's a guy with some upside. So I think Jared Ivey makes this roster. That's different than what I had coming in. I have Tyreek Smith below him. Jalen Gaines has had a really nice camp. I've got him on the bubble as well as Seth Coleman. I've got Connor O'Toole, who had a lot of hype coming in as the last. Now, he just got back from being out with an injury. I didn't think he looked very good in the scrimmage and 1v1s and things of that nature. But, for now, I've got them keeping 5 outside linebackers / edge players. That would be Derek Hall, DeMarcus Lawrence, Boye Mafe, Jared Ivey, and Tyreek Smith. So I do have Tyreek Smith. Realistically, I think that's going to be someone other than Tyreek Smith when all is said and done. I'm seeing tweets go out from my colleagues. We're not supposed to tweet about practice when there's no fans here. So I'm not going to share what – I guess it's now public. I think it was just tweeted out that Charles Cross is back at practice. So I'll share more about that when I can speak more about it. All right. So again, I don't know that Tyreek Smith ultimately makes the roster, but I think they keep 5 there, and that's currently who I think would be on that list. I think he's had a decent enough camp that he would be. That's where he would be. Cornerback. We've got Devin Witherspoon, Reek Woolen, Josh Jobe, and Shaquille Griffin as locks. Nothing has really changed there, even though Shaquille Griffin has been away for a while on some personal stuff. Then I have got Demarion Williams as the 5th cornerback, and I have them keeping 5. I think Demarion Williams has had a really nice camp. He's one of the few guys that can be a nickel corner as well as play outside. He's also an excellent special teams player. So I think Demarion Williams is a guy that makes it. Shamar Jean-Charles is a guy I had making the roster, but he's been out with an injury for a while, and I'm wondering if that's going to keep him from ultimately making the squad. So they could go to 6 here potentially, but I think 5 is what I currently have. I do not have Nehemiah Pritchett making the roster as it currently stands. I have him as on the bubble. Might just be because I continue to not see what others do. Maybe like I could be really having a blind spot. I don't see it in him. I think Demarion Williams has had a much more interesting camp than Nehemiah Pritchett, but that's where I've got him right now. Tyler Hall, Cam Alexander, 2 guys I don't see making the roster, kind of round out the cornerback group. That gets us to safety, which is Julian Love, Kobe Bryant, Nick Eamon-Wari. Even though Eamon-Wari is playing a lot of corner and some other, in nickel, he plays all over the place. I'm counting him as a safety. And then DeAnthony Bell, I have as a high confidence player to make the roster. That would be 4 safeties making the roster. That means Jarek Reed, Ty Okada, and obviously AJ Finley would not make it. And in fact, we can move AJ Finley. Down to IR as I make that change in real time. Okay, so so that would be 4 safeties: Julian Love, Kobe Bryant, Nick Eamon-Wari, and DeAnthony Bell, who's had a fantastic camp and has made plays on special teams, almost every practice on defense and run support and pass defense. I just think he's playing really well. So there was a question. Oh, Isis Waxter. Sorry. Yes. I forgot one guy on here. I have got, thank you for helping me on that. I was doing this right before. I think I could put Waxter in a few different places on here, and I'm going to put him on the bubble because I still think he's got a chance to make it, but he has not had a good enough camp that I think that it's a sure thing. So that's like the news of it. And what I kind of see as I look through this list, I think the guys that have helped themselves the most, Torrey Horton, no question. Torrey Horton has really helped himself. I think Brady Russell continues to have like a great camp and be a guy that I'd be a hard time seeing them get rid of. And then other guys that really helped themselves. Anthony Bradford, 100% has helped himself. Jalen Sundell continues to help himself. I think Mike Jarrell and Satawa Lamea have helped themselves. I think Mike Morris has stepped forward, especially as pads have come on. I think Quentin Bohanna has helped himself quite a bit. I think Josh Ross has had a nice camp and made some impact plays. And then Demarion Williams, another guy that I think has stood out. Jared Ivey certainly has surged into the conversation and becomes part of what might be a really good rookie class for this team. And then DeAnthony Bell has been, nails. So a lot of guys have stepped forward. It's not as much about guys, falling off, and really not, knock on wood or whatever superstition you have. Not that many that are just getting spots due to injury so far. So, that's where things stand from my perspective on the Monday before the first preseason game. Obviously, a lot left to figure out as the preseason plays out, but a good early set of performances for a number of Seahawks players have put them in good position. Question here from Rudy says, could Eamon Warry be inside linebacker cover only in case of emergency? Maybe. I mean, he's very light. I mean, you're talking about a 220-pound guy. I think that's not the way they want him to be used. And I think if to be honest, if Tyrese Knight or Ernest Jones went down, I think they would work with the guys that are already on the roster. And if they really didn't like those guys, they'd go out and get another inside linebacker. I just don't think that they would take away what makes Nick Eamon special as a nickel and place him in a place where he's not really designed. He is not an inside linebacker. That's just not his position. Appreciate the question. All right, folks, I am going to wrap there as practice starts getting towards the drills that I want to make sure I'm paying attention to. I will be back with you in a few hours for an interview with Mike Jarrell and with the post-practice report. Until then, I'm Brian Nemhauser. Make sure you give the show a like, subscribe, click the bell to get notified. Go to patreon.com/hawkblogger, sign up, be part of this community, support the show, and get ad-free audio of this show, as well as access to the Discord channel where we're hanging out, having fun all day long. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your morning. I'll see you in a few hours. Until then, take care.